So next up, we have one of our own board members, Peter Erlenbach.
I'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon, everyone, or I guess it is technically still morning. So my name is Peter, and I'm a solution engineer with Esri, and I'm also on the board for the North Carolina ArcGIS users group. So if you ever want to find me, you'll probably see me at a conference. I'm one of the few that have red hair. That's a pretty good way to find me. So today I'm going to talk with you about ArcGIS indoors, and during this presentation, I want to hit on 4 key topics. First, we're going to talk about why ArcGIS indoors is an emerging industry, meaning that it's growing and the demand for the product is slowly growing. Secondly, we're going to give a quick little interactive demonstration on common practical applications using indoor GIS. And then we're going to highlight some successful customers and get you familiar with the products and services that can help you get started quickly. And then we're going to come into the question and answer section towards the end. So if you have questions, Jackie will kind of keep them in line towards the end of the conversation. I present in a pretty straightforward manner. I like to tell you what I'm going to tell you, then I'm going to tell it to you, and then towards the end, I'm going to tell you what I told you. So if you missed anything, just wait towards the end and we'll kind of have a brief little recap. So a while ago, John asked me to put together a presentation for ArcGIS indoors, which I was happy to do. And I started to wonder, how much time do we spend inside? And according to the US EPA, we spend roughly 90% of our lives in buildings for a variety of reasons. That can include working, living, learning, traveling, receiving healthcare, and a variety of other things. And despite the fact that we have spent most of our lives in these spaces, we haven't mapped too much of it yet. And unfortunately, the problems that we see within this industry are very familiar to what we see in the GIS industry right now, at least with outdoor mapping, which is a lot of these facility managers and people that are responsible for making all of this possible for us in our buildings largely depend on pen and paper. And with everyone starting to return to buildings in a variety of capacities over the past couple of years, facility managers are being asked to be responsible to provide accommodations for their customers, make sure they're safe, and make sure everything is functioning appropriately. So this brings up the age-old story. These teams are being asked to do more with less, and as a result, they're trying to figure out how to manage and digitize this data. And wouldn't you know it, while they're developing these standards, they find out that some of their organizations have this little product called GIS, Geographic Information Systems, and they use it to map everything outside, sometimes down to an individual asset. So you can kind of imagine how in the coming, or as they realize that people are using GIS, they want to look into this system instead of looking into another point solution and creating another data silo. These managers now want to map what's happening inside their building using GIS. And to do this, you can use indoor GIS as the overall concept, but it's powered by 2 primary products, which is ArcGIS Indoors and ArcGIS IPS, otherwise known as Indoor Positioning Systems. And these products are the 2 parts that make up the overall concept that I'll be talking about today, which is indoor GIS. And these platforms allow managers, facility managers in particular, to share indoor maps with their stakeholders in a quick, easy, accessible way. And they create what's called sticky applications, or what we refer to as sticky applications, which means I keep coming back to it. I like the product. I like what I'm seeing. I'm going to keep going. So as a result, this unlocks the value of facilities data and day-to-day workflows for those building occupants that can then become sensors for those facility managers. And these indoor maps additionally provide great situational awareness for planning, operations, and maintenance. And we're going to take a look at 3 key reasons today why you should consider indoor GIS at your organization. Cool. So the first is going to be faster facility data discovery. Today, a lot of the requests when I talk with people about why they're considering ArcGIS indoors or looking to map their buildings, the common problem is that we can't find the data. And over time, they'll pass around emails. I'll email Jackie, Jackie will email Katie, Katie will email Amy, and we all kind of put this aggregate PDF together that says, this is what we think we have. Or the alternative scenarios is you email an engineering firm and say, can you provide me that building or that layout that you created? And it's indecipherable because it's an AutoCAD file or a Revit file. So I don't have the knowledge to review those. much less the license. That becomes a challenge that people have to overcome. So with ArcGIS Indoors, you can create a digital destination, and the general trend here, you can see it in bold, is indoor GIS within 3 clicks. You can quickly filter down based on a site, building, and floor on an easy to use interface to get the quick information that you need. Similar to what Ben described in his previous presentation, is you can share URLs to those users. If Jackie and I were in a similar organization, I could share her a URL to a map that would open up a point that is immediately gives her context and relevancy as to where she is and where this asset is going to be, right? And that eliminates that problem of finding information. So that's the first point, fast data discovery. The second is a better workplace experience. And this phrase kind of comes in a variety of ways, and I'll explain it. But at a superficial level, our work has changed dramatically over the last couple of years. Our locations are increasingly flexible, hopefully. Our communications get even more digital every day, and our businesses, as a result, get more profitable. So our workplaces are getting reorganized to better support the future of work. Right, my dad, for example, works in the Charlotte area. He works in Ballantyne, and they're reorganizing his entire office into an open floor concept plan, which, much to his chagrin, is more effective at managing space. Right. So as a result, as these people begin to come back to buildings, and my dad starts to go back to the office, you need to make sure that your users can explore, search, and navigate to reserve their workplace accommodations. In this hybrid model they're moving to save money and make a more effective space, you have to book a hoteling desk that's at this hexagon, so it's 3 or 4 separate desks. So he has to go in, use a platform to reserve that space, and make sure he has those amenities, right? Maybe he needs a whiteboard, a TV, or a keyboard, right? To make sure that they have the right mix of focus and collaboration to perform the work that he needs to do, right? More importantly, it makes these users feel safe, right? Given the recent couple of years, that safety component is really important. So we talked about better workplace situational awareness, or sorry, making the workplace experience better. And now we're going to talk about situational awareness. And this is a topic that hits home for me, but facility management teams, maintenance, IT services, physical security, and more importantly, public safety all operate predominantly inside a building. And Jack put it really well, I think, at the 2022 user conference, is he challenged us all as we're mapping the outdoor environment to consider mapping the indoor environment to enable these same teams, because they lack the same real-time situational awareness that I described with Jackie or even Ben, opening up a map and seeing what's around me so that I can have context. So typically, mapping applications will open up to the end user's location and show them relative position, which orients them with their surroundings and gives them the ability to find their destination. However, when you enter a building, you often lose that GPS accuracy. For me, I got married back in October, so I had to go acquire my marriage license in Mecklenburg County. And if you've ever been inside the clerk of the court building, it's this massive structure. It has marble facades around the edge. But as I walked in, I lost my GPS signal. And as I'm looking to go onto the internet to find out where this place is that I need to go to, it was room, I think it was 302. I was 2 buildings over, right? And that level of accuracy does not really provide great real-time situational awareness for me. So that's a challenge that you have to overcome. So this level of accuracy that I was looking for in that scenario is now possible with indoor positioning systems. And that enables real-time location sharing to inform those important groups such as public safety, physical security, or people that are just trying to help manage spaces respond in an appropriate time when it matters. So I'm going to cover a quick demonstration today, and I'm going to go over these 3 key components. So that's going to be data discovery, the occupant experience, and also a little bit about space planning and kind of extending the solution a little bit. I like to make sure that we cover a little bit more than just the basics. So this is going to be the ArcGIS Indoors web viewer. And this web viewer is very similar to a lot of our maps. It's one map for one purpose. But a common paradigm that we see that people get stuck on with this application is that they think, okay, it's one map, one purpose. Each of my buildings need to have their own map. And what I'm going to show you here is that this is just a demonstration environment that we have that allows us to quickly go through multiple facilities at different locations, but all with the same purpose of showing off an office area, right? So you can see we bounce between Nevada and a couple other locations. But as I mentioned earlier, within 3 clicks, I can really quickly narrow in on a certain building, explore occupant information and those point features such as safety and security, and even look at a couple other options such as booking meeting rooms or hoteling spaces. So I'll showcase a few of these capabilities today just by starting with a routine first day at Redlands campus. Right, I work remote, so for me, I would have no situational awareness as to where my office would be. But by just doing a quick search, I can quickly figure out where my office for the week is going to be, my contact information for an employee, as well as my job title. And if I needed to find directions to this particular office, I can quickly drop a point, and we're gonna experience some wayfinding, is what I'm gonna call it. Now, wayfinding is important, and it's different than what you would normally experience because it's building aware. A very slight detail you're going to see in this demonstration is that the floors are going to switch when I move from the first floor directions to the second floor direction. So again, as I'm moving through this building space, I'm being given context as to where I need to go, where I've been, and maybe what's to my left and right. In a lot of scenarios, the one directional mode of walking is important, but you need to make sure your building is ADA compliant. So you can switch that mode of transportation and really quickly gain awareness that if your building is accessible to those who need it, right? That solid line is going to be your current direction, and the dashed line shows the past directions that you've been or the future ones that are coming on a different floor. So now I'm at my office, and a common first step within Esri is to, you're onboarding to a new job. You need to meet a new team, right? And I need to book a meeting to really quickly see maybe what rooms are available to me. So within this platform, you can utilize the meeting application to quickly filter down rooms that are accessible to you. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to be not too picky. I'm just looking for a minimum of 5 people. I want to stay on that main campus and in my building, and I need some specific equipment, which is all just stored in attribute information. So you can look at a keyboard and mouse, a TV, and you can't tell I talk with my hands, so I like to whiteboard. So this returns a series of rooms that are available to me. And if nothing meets your query, it'll actually expand it a little bit and look at different buildings. But you can book this information and then also see the equipment that's available within your room. The power of this is really good because you can come through, and as you would search my name again, you would see actually that I have bookings throughout campus. So if someone was trying to find me and I was in a meeting and not responding, it showcases that my location says Peter's going to be in building Q, floor 2, in this conference room during that time frame. And I can even share this out on my Outlook calendar. We're going to pivot really quick, and I've covered wayfinding, I've covered rooms, right? But I haven't covered all these little points that are scattered throughout the indoor experience. There are a variety of additional layers you can bring in to provide context into your buildings. So I'm going to turn on survey 1, 2, 3 layers that we have for our work order system. And just through a simple click, you can really quickly see the assignment type and also how these forms are smart aware. They're pulling in the building, the floor, and even the room that's associated with it, which provides a lot of great context to those folks that we described earlier, trying to do more with less, right? Being more efficient. Users can submit this through the application if they so choose, kind of making them that sensor for that organization. In my experience, viewing buildings in 2D is great, but 3D is just a little bit better. So by default, this schema, this data format, is floor aware, meaning that you can visualize all floors within a 3D environment, and you can even enhance that experience with some fictitious trees, right? And in this scenario, I'm actually going to turn that off and turn back on the survey 1, 2, 3 work order system, as well as safety and security. But you can see there are a variety of other things there that allow you to really quickly visualize where these incidents are occurring, where my equipment is, right? In the case of an emergency, you can see that there's a fire extinguisher and a first aid kit down towards the bottom, providing a lot of good context. Point information is good, right? But you can also perform analysis within this platform. For the purposes of this demonstration, I did a quick little social distancing analysis, but I'd like to expand your mind a little bit and have you think about Maybe if you work next to me, I speak loud, right? And maybe you're rethinking your workspace. You need to figure out, okay, where are we going to put Peter so he doesn't disturb the rest of the team? We want to make sure that everyone's working effectively. So you can isolate these areas of concern and perform that 3D analysis very quickly. And this can apply to situations like I just mentioned, social distancing, or maybe even reorganization of the office space, just so you can figure out maybe how to accommodate for 5 more staff members. Talking about contextual information, you can also put your utilities into this platform, which again makes for an effective response time. So if power or internet or is out or a water leak is occurring, you can quickly navigate to the closest point that you believe is related to that issue and make a quicker response time in a more effective manner. I talked about extending the solution, right? You have all this data, you have this model. What can you do with it? And I'm going to show 2 dashboards. The first is a work order operations dashboard that just feeds off of our survey 1, 2, 3 layer. But with indoors, I have more abilities available to me. I can dial in based on floor, building, and really get context for my information, right? What's happening inside building Q? Why are there so many work orders coming through? Maybe I need to update a work order status. This provides that central location. Assets can take a variety of forms. In this scenario, we built out an asset management dashboard for our fire extinguishers and first aid kits. But as you can see here, let's think bigger. Assets are resources, technicians, people that are working. And in this scenario, I can even drill down into a specific floor and see I have a security guard who's been on site for roughly 12 hours. He's on floor 2. So if I need that specific individual to respond to an event, I have that information all at a fingertips click. So now that we've gone over the demonstration and we've gone over just the concepts, I want to talk about where the rubber meets the road. This is the fun stuff that Ben and the other presenters have kind of gone over, right? So user stories. Right now, organizations have an abundance of office space, and the workforce is shifting between hybrid, all in office, or digital, right? And this is driving the adoption of indoor mapping in typical administrative facilities. So Arup is one of these examples. That's a world-leading engineering firm in facility maintenance, and they have over, I think, 1,700 employees. And over the course of 4 months, they performed an analysis on their indoor environment with 15,000 reservations. So people coming in, providing context to the things they're seeing, issues they're seeing, right? Really important information. I was practicing this demonstration with Katie earlier this week, and she brought up an excellent example too of a bank that was looking to analyze their indoor environment. And through a similar model, they determined, hey, we're not using a 3rd floor, right? Maybe we can lease that space out and be a little bit more profitable. So again, gaining insights from your data. Let's see. Sorry. There we go. The second example I want to show is Raleigh Water. Right, we see an adoption across all types of facilities, including utilities like water and wastewater. For these organizations, having downtime doesn't equate to just, oh, my office isn't available or the internet isn't there. It's a negative customer experience and sometimes a negative impact, right? Especially an environmental one. By using indoors, you're becoming more aware and you understand exactly where those assets and equipment are so that you can better plan and execute maintenance when it counts. The last example I'm going to provide today is Atlanta Airport. In the coming months, they're going to be releasing their ArcGIS Indoors experience. And I mentioned this earlier, but I'll emphasize it again. Transportation hubs like Atlanta face an increasing challenge, right? Similar to Charlotte Douglas International Airport, they only have so much space, and they're looking for solutions or another point solution to help them increase passenger throughput, improve their situational awareness and their response times, right? And that means just more profits for them down the line. But Hartsfield-Jackson sees indoor GIS as a solution that can enable many solutions. We're agnostic, right? So we can integrate with other platforms compared to another point solution that's going to create another data silo somewhere else. And these same patterns can apply to anyone who owns a major railway, bus stop, or even just a regular transportation route. So I'll quickly wrap up here. We have, I think, about 4 more slides, but all the demonstrations we've seen here today are made possible by 2 products. The first is going to be ArcGIS Indoors, and the second is ArcGIS IPS. ArcGIS Indoors is your mapping system for these buildings. Just as you saw, it provides that visual context that can be extended or added on to your ArcGIS Enterprise system or ArcGIS Online environment. And by utilizing that desktop license and that organizational extension, you can really quickly convert your data, curate that information, and publish these indoor maps in a quick and efficient manner. And then the challenge of sharing it out is solved by our configurable off-the-shelf app templates that allow you to share those 3D planning spaces or maybe even floorware forms. Again, once deployed, you can share these out to the public for people like me wandering through Mecklenburg County, or just internal authorized users, depending on the needs of your project. The second component is ArcGIS IPS, otherwise known as Indoor Positioning Systems. This product is often referred internally and externally as the blue dot on the map. And the point I want you to take away here is that it enhances your indoor applications with a more real-time and high accuracy location point, right? It allows people or organizations to visualize those real-time operations for better communication when it matters. Sometimes I find myself struggling to understand the difference between the blue dot on the map, right, and what I have. So I asked for my colleague's video. This is Jin Ho. He's wandering through the Dev Summit. And you can see here that instead of the 3 to 4 foot accuracy you would get if you have GPS interference, he has these sensors throughout the hotel that are installed that allow you to really quickly determine some pinpoint accuracy, right? So this is effective for wayfinding, breadcrumb trail analysis, ensuring your visitors are going to the right location. And as he's about to demonstrate, down to this precision level of seeing I'm in front of 2 doors, right? Which is sub-foot accuracy, which is really impressive. So I'll go over this briefly. I got 2 more slides left. So we offer some enablement services to train your staff on what's available, right? To deliver that initial operating capability for Indoors GIS. But there's also some other resources that I'll share on the next slide that are just training, product blogs, and demonstration material. But in this scenario, I wanted to mention this, depending on your project timeline, you might choose to engage Esri, right, to help get you up to operating capacity to make sure that you're meeting your deadline and getting that quick return on investment. And we do that across indoor mapping, space planning, and then the indoor positioning systems as well. In addition to those enablement services, there's a host of destinations, like I mentioned, the product pages, the Where's Next series, blogs, and even video tutorials in the GeoNet community that can allow you to self-service your project and learn over time. So as I mentioned in the beginning, I present in a simple manner. I tell you what I'm going to tell you, which I've covered. I've told it to you, and now I'm going to tell you what I told you again, right? So we gave an introduction on Indoors, and then we talked about the 2 products that power it, which is ArcGIS Indoors and ArcGIS IPS. I then covered just some enablement services and training that can help you jumpstart your project and make sure you have a comprehensive understanding of the product, right? The last point I want to share with you is a call to action. I'm sure we've all experienced the scenario of being asked to do more with less. So I would like you to today consider, how are you managing your buildings? How is your organization mapping this infrastructure? And would mapping this space help those folks do more with less? With that, I'll go ahead and open it up for questions, and thank you everyone for your time today.
Thanks, Peter. We actually do have a few questions already. So
okay.
Are room bookings done directly through Indoors or through a different software that's integrated with Indoors?
Through a different software. So like I said, our platform is agnostic. So we would integrate with, for example, Microsoft Office 365 to kind of make sure you get that Outlook integration. You can also just download that, that invite, right, directly from ArcGIS Indoors and just populate Zoom meeting information in there. So you still reserve that space and then just hydrate it with some additional information.
How do you go about building the floor plans when you don't have a floor plan schematic to start with?
So that's an excellent question. So there's 2 ways to get started with ArcGIS Indoors. The first is you have CAD files or Revit files to transfer into the file geodatabase or enterprise database that then supports this model, right? The second is you have a PDF and that's all you have. So in that scenario, you would look to digitize that information, and that's where those enablement services can come into play, or you would find one of those ArcGIS Indoor partners. And some of them have very specialized services that are actually fairly affordable considering the amount of work that they do to convert those into the data format for you. And then you would maintain those organically over time in that environment. One of those customers is Geocom, and a couple other partners are slowly becoming aware of how they can kind of integrate within Indoors itself.
That kind of led to something I was thinking about is this whole SLAM technology and, people using
Mhm.
that to map the indoor space. Have you seen that used a lot?
I haven't heard of that technology, so no.
It's like the one that it's like on your body.
Hmm.
And so I've talked to some different sponsors that are using it, and they've used it to map out like pump station indoors,
Yeah, I haven't
areas that
seen
are
that one
more
yet.
confined. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So next question. I think I saw something in an earlier slide, but are there organizations using indoors for fiber or communication utility mapping?
Yes, they do. There are a couple schools that are doing that, and it just depends on the level of data that you have, right? So I have an example that if it's Ben, I can meet with him and just quickly show him. But
Yeah.
yeah, there are some examples of like putting water pipes and fiber all the way up into a building. So that way, when someone has a leak, they can kind of ballpark roughly where they need to enter the wall to address that issue.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
The next question is indoors a solution or another product with an additional cost?
So it is an additional product that would be built on top of your ArcGIS Online or enterprise environment. And which one you go with largely depends on your project. So there is an additional cost with Indoors, yes.
I did have really a thought is, with our town, one major hurdle seems to be onboarding of new employees. So you
Mhm.
kind of hit on that a little bit with being a building that you usually don't go to. The integration potential for that to be used as something for HR seems like there could be a lot of uses for it. So
Yeah, there's a lot of uses between the platform. You can use it for people just coming back or maybe onboarding for the first time and not being aware. It ranges from that to situational awareness in schools, right? If you
right,
check into a school, you can actually put a badge on and they can watch you on a dashboard. We've seen a couple examples of that and say, okay, is Peter going to room 135, which is where his kid is, or why is he wandering in another direction? And you can kind
yeah,
of imagine how that is really appropriate
definitely.
information to have.
Right. Wonderful information. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah, happy to do it.
So that leaves us with our final presentation, which is Katie Yellowshan. She's
Yeah.
also with Esri. So it's all yours, Katie.